Jim, you ready? Taneytown Planning Commission, please come to order. I'd like to welcome you folks here this evening. Would you please stand to the pledge to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the records reflect the members that are here this evening. Anything about Chris Tillman? Okay. At this time, he's not here, so. All right. Commissioner members should have received the draft minutes of April the 29th. Is there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
None that I saw.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes from April.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Myers, second by Bill. Any further discussion?
There it is.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Carried, thank you.
Chris is here.
Excuse me.
Chris is here.
Welcome to our meeting, Chris.
I apologize, everyone. I am sorry I'm late. It's been a long day, and tomorrow promises not to be any shorter.
Got caught in traffic.
All right, first thing on the agenda this evening is Taneytown Elementary School pre-kindergarten and kindergarten addition. Daryl, you want to lead it off? And
Yes,
then we'll ask for the,
here with the, on this project, and they're seeking a concept site plan approval.
okay, one of you'd like to lead us here?
Sure. Thank you guys for your time this evening, and as Darrell stated, we are here seeking concept plan approval.
Any different or anything different from the presentation a month ago, 2 months ago, whenever it was here?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion, one way or the other.
I move to approve the site plan for the Taneytown Elementary School. Concept plan.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Barry. Further discussion? Any comments? Anything from the county or anything? Okay,
Good to go?
no comments?
There we go.
You guys can't get off that easy. I'm sure I'll let Ray know.
Yeah, I will.
All right. So all those in favor of the motion of accepting the concept site plan for the Taneytown Elementary School addition signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Unanimous. Thank you.
Yes? See you
was
next
easy.
time. Thank you.
Press the easy button.
You could have at the time. Right. It shows unanimous by the ones that was here.
It was unanimous, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Next item is VAPCO, Allendale Lane parking lot. They're seeking preliminary site plan approval.
No, presentation.
Excuse me?
Presentation only.
Presentation only.
Right, sorry. New agenda.
Hi, I'm Jenna from DTC 192 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland. We're presenting the preliminary plan to the board for the auxiliary parking across from Allendale Road, which we understand that there will not be a decision tonight. With this submission, we have addressed the access, the landscaping, the stormwater management, and will satisfy any and all comments that.
Okay. Any comments?
There was a comment on the county plan about a tree being in the right-of-way, in the Allendale Road right-of-way. I didn't have the plans handy. But I just a little concerned, is this a tree that you're planting in our right of way and?
Number 5?
Yeah.
With the proposed landscaping?
Yeah, there was a note from the county about that.
Okay. We can definitely take a look at that and have that relocated.
Well, I mean, I just was noting it to see if there was a reason for that. Is there a reason that there was, as you,
That it was in the right of way?
you see this? Yeah, yeah.
I am not aware of why it's there, but we can have it relocated.
Any other questions or comments?
Nope, none for me. I mean, everything looks in order, as far as I can tell.
So the preliminary plans you're planning on for next month? Because they've already went out to the county, right?
They're being circulated, yes.
They're being circulated now. Okay. All right. No comments?
It'll probably be a couple months before all the comment letters have come through and the engineer has addressed the comments and the approval letters come back out. So next month might be a little optimistic.
Okay. No comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
An agreement for review, Jess?
You want to see if anybody has any comments?
Excuse me?
We'll see if anybody has any comments.
On what?
On the VAPCO?
I thought I asked that. Was there anyone had any comments for VAPCO? If you do, please. Sorry, I missed that earlier.
And I may have not heard you, sir. I apologize.
Okay. All right. Ordinance and agreements, evident there isn't any, right?
There are not, sir.
All right. You want to go over your report?
Okay. So I want to start off by pointing out Dan's wanting to learn more about our processes and procedures. And Dan, appreciate you doing that. And Jim, I know you were right on his heels, but I think this body has a great interest in doing a better job. So I appreciate that. Jay stood up and put together an awesome presentation for both us and the Board of Appeals. And it was nice hanging out in a somewhat leisure mood. So that may be more of a little bit like how it's going to be when we start through the comp plan. So, but in any case, appreciate everybody, everybody's involvement, and thanks. So on February, on April the 30th, city manager and I did meet with the developers of Mountain Brook and Garnet Ridge, just to look over some questions and, just discussion points. There's a lot of activity in the county about, traffic impact studies, and that's quite the, that's a chapter in itself when it comes to putting together a development, I'll tell you that. Very customizable, we can ask for it, we have the builder will pay for it, we ask for it, that type of thing. Mylars for Taneytown and the VAPCO third amended site plan were signed by Taneytown and returned on May the 6th. The mayor and city council did approve Arrow's comprehensive plan proposal, and we look forward to getting that process started very soon.
We're going to have time to talk a little bit at the end where we're at with that as far as any scheduled meetings coming up or a kickoff. Okay.
So the Board of Zoning Appeals recently approved a special exception for the VAPCO Allendale parking lot. So that's good, that's rolling through. So you remember from our last meeting, there was a contingency on their approval, and that's gone through, okay? And then that's all for my report, sir.
All right.
Unless you guys want to discuss grass and chickens, I can help you out with that.
Now, just
Have
one-
you had much enforcement calls on the chickens?
No, surprisingly not. But the first year that Poolsville had theirs, the gal told me, I think the first 8 months, there was not a whole lot of activity. I'm not sure if they did theirs in the wintertime or not. So we've only had one application and it's done perfectly. I mean, perfectly. There were no questions for me on that application. And so the funny thing is you go through these steps, like we're all saying that, you have to be this far away from a dwelling, this far away from a setback. Well, the cool thing is these coops come with wheels, and they need to be because they're a desecrated piece of land. You move it over 2 feet or whatever, and you just keep on going, you go back. So it's pretty neat. I mean, it's a neat operation. Now, I don't know what eggs cost a dozen, but I'd rather go to one of the stores myself.
All right. Let's move on to the active projects.
Okay, Memorial Park expansion, they hope to be in here next month with all the letters of approvals they need for that. The APCO is almost to the point of being issued a permit for the third amended site plan, or the third amended, site plan. We're just waiting on a few documents for that. Recovery 80, nothing new to report. That'll be on there for quite a while. Storage today, they have been actively going through their process. They're like one letter away from getting, it's a big hurdle. There's a sewer main out there that is too close to a wall. And once they figure that out, and I haven't heard from the gentleman in a little while, but hopefully we'll get something on that.
Shouldn't they be coming back within a year or 18 months, something like
So
that?
the year's gone. I'm not sure what we need to do there. We'll ask the city attorney that a little bit later. It was ironic that when we discussed the year, we should have maybe discussed that a little bit more that night.
Okay.
And Allendale Lane, you know where we're at with that. Taneytown Elementary School, you know where we're at with that. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Moving on down. Are we finished with Bonner Park?
Yes, there's a few, I think, stormwater things to take care of and clean up and what have you. It's not, we won't take it off our agenda until it's been totally, all the grading aspects have been taken care of.
Okay.
Hopefully soon, it'd be nice to knock off something off our agenda.
And Duffy, I thought that was about ready to come off too.
That's close, yes. So there's still the close, all the PWA stuff. We have reduced sureties and that type of thing, but that's just some administrative stuff.
Okay. All right, guess we move to Jay, your legal updates.
I wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed doing our presentation. I hope you did, but I
We all
truly
did.
did.
We all did.
And maybe we could do something, we don't have to do the same thing, but if you're interested in other stuff, even if I could bring like somebody in, I could help teach the other thing if you want. So I really was happy because your group really seemed to be into trying to do things better. And I just really, I'd do anything to help you do that, so.
Can't tell you how many times I went over this in the past week. I even thought about bringing an umbrella and the Robert Ruhl book.
You should have told me because I'd have brought some eggs. Okay, so.
There in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really did enjoy that, but
But I hope you did notice that I did change the order of things this evening. I did ask for a motion before we had discussion.
I told you not to change how you do things, though. But anyway, I did appreciate that, and that was great. As far as business goes, the opinion for the BZA has been drafted and issued for ABAPCO, which is why Daryl said that they can move ahead. That's no longer an issue.
And that's really all we have. The council really isn't dealing with any zoning stuff at this point in time, so it's nothing coming your way on that. So, unless the questions for me. I know that you did pose questions via email, which is awesome, because when he just said that the city attorney's going to talk about that, the only thing I thought about in that slideshow was the Jeopardy thing, whereas like he's going to ask me a question, I'm like, okay, I got a couple seconds to figure it out. But if you do have those kind of things, it's great if you can get them to me or through the city, and then I'd be prepared to answer them for you. So we'll be ready. As you saw, Jim said, we'll talk about your issue when it comes up on the agenda, but I'll be ready for you. So, okay, thanks.
County update. Good evening.
Evening. Thanks for having me here. Couple updates. Water sewer has been approved and it's on its way to MDE for the spring amendment cycle approvals. And a little change there, Price Wagner has been doing the water sewer master plan and amendments for a few years now, and he is leaving the department, the county, and Andrew Gray will be taking his place moving forward with water sewer. Housing study, that website is live, and we're still doing community engagement. Several dates are on in the month left here. So May 25th, we have a couple in Westminster and New Windsor, then Gamber Fire Department Carnival season's here, Mount Airy night food trucks, and a virtual meeting that'll happen like county-wide. Please take the survey if you haven't done so already. It is 20 questions in 10 minutes, so it's not a 3-question survey, but if you have time, please take the survey. The annual report, the draft copy should be here next week for you guys to look over for review, and that will be going before the county's planning commission on the 5th of June. And then just an update on a county ordinance that did come through planning commission last year and then finally reached the Board of County Commissioners this month, and that was for approval of the adoption of the ordinance change for adult use cannabis. And that was text amendments to Chapter 158 of the zoning code, and that replaced definitions, established distance requirements, and revised the table of land use, and that pretty much made it consistent with state law that has gone into effect now as well. Any questions?
That was just revising the county ordinance to meet state law.
Yes. And they needed to put it in place so that it did not default to being a regular retail, so it needed to be codified.
A couple months ago, you made a request or asked something about the housing study.
Yes. I went on and I took the survey and submitted it, so I was able to find the website and everything with no issues.
Wonderful.
Kind of thought the questions are a little bit biased towards one thing, so there's another item I'd like to get Jay to kind of speak to us about is our roles and responsibilities with respect to like affordable housing. I'd like to just understand, what is required and what's our obligation. It seemed like the questions were kind of biased towards that's already a done deal. And maybe it is, I just need to be educated.
Did you, in the last part where it says comments, did you add that in there? I can definitely tell the consultants that it
I did
felt
not
that
add
way.
any
Okay.
comments to my opinion there, but
Okay.
I have one, I'll give it if somebody asks.
Okay. I will definitely share that with the consultants as well, to keep that in mind too. Okay. Anything else?
You mentioned it was carnival season. Are you going to be at the Taneytown Carnival?
And what date is that?
That is.
The 15th?
15th. I don't think the consultant will be back into the Taneytown area, but I have been making some rounds at different areas, so I could possibly be back.
I know where you can get some good pizza.
Right over there? That's a good draw for me, too.
There you go.
All right, any other questions? All right,
Nope.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Old business? New business? Well, let's just talk a little bit then about the comprehensive plan. If there's anything else that you can fill us in as far as when you contact the
So
people.
it took a few days after the Monday meeting for the mayor to sign off on the proposal. So that is back with Arrow now. We're just waiting to hear back from them with some dates to schedule a kickoff meeting. I think they would like to meet with staff initially and then with the planning commission, but we don't have a solid date yet.
Okay,
Do we have a plan on how we want to run it, or?
not yet really until we have the kickoff meeting, and then we'll kind of work together. We're still looking at maybe 2 times a month, maybe.
If we could just, I know we've talked about this off and on, but, you know, we've kicked around the idea of holding like a workshop dedicated to focusing on the comprehensive plan, or starting earlier in the evening and having some discussion or some, you know, work on that prior to our regular 7:30 meeting. Are there preferences for one or the other of those? Or, you know, if we just kind of get consensus?
I need to start, I like to start, I like to have a workshop meeting, and then maybe start on our regular meeting night, start at 7 o'clock,
That's exactly.
and then kind of finalize what was discussed at our workshop meeting. So we always keep something moving ahead.
Yep.
If it's,
I second that proposal there. That's exactly what I'd like to do, and I think, you know, having the dedicated evening would be good, and then just at the start of the next meeting, just clean it up a little bit and get ready for the next time.
sound good?
Well, we'll see what the
workable?
consultant has to say as well, of course. You know, there's going to be a lot of information gathering and you know, I'll say public outreach that's going to be in the early stage of the plan to see what our residents and citizens, you know, are looking for, what their vision is, or what they like, don't like, want, don't want. So that kind of fact-finding is going to be in the early stages of it. So it may be that there's some of that information gathering and kind of analysis of that before there's a whole lot to present to the commission, but certainly your input is going to be very important as well. So once we have the kickoff meeting, we'll kind of have a little more of a solid strategy, I guess.
I am curious as if you got any answers to your questions you posed to the council, though.
I think a lot of those questions, I think, will be, and maybe we do need to, because we don't have any, you know, they really did not answer this question, but I know we kind of booted a lot of that ahead to the whole comprehensive plan process. But I do think that we would like to hear, before we get knee-deep into that comprehensive plan process, we'd like to hear council's opinion on some of those issues.
I certainly would.
Yeah.
I know one of those was the council's opinion on community village.
Yes.
And, you know, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but the code book is pretty much council's directive, or, you know, they're putting the vision into text. So, and, you know, that section of the code was revised not terribly long ago, where we talked about different parcels of different sizes, and you know, we got rid of the alley requirement for the single-family homes and things like that. So that's been reviewed and updated not terribly long ago. So I would think that, you know, outside of maybe reevaluating that type of development as part of the comp plan process, I think, you know, those are recent amendments that the council made to it. So I think they're pretty much up to speed on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I guess what I mean, like, does that mean they would rather have that as the new development, or would they rather have you know, 20,000? I mean,
Right.
just kind of,
Yeah, and it may be a case by case.
Yeah.
So, because they have to designate each parcel that wants to do community village has to be designated by the council to do that.
yeah.
So,
And I'm sure we're not going to agree. I'm sure we're not going to agree here either. But, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear everybody's opinion so we can understand what they're thinking.
yeah.
All right. Is there anything else?
You know what? We don't have to. We don't have to agree, but we just have to come to a majority in the decision.
There's a couple of things are not on the agenda tonight. We really don't want to be talking about those items, but maybe if there's anything particular, the question's been brought up in the past about parking requirements and things like that. If we want to touch base on something like that, we got, Evening be a good time to mention that.
I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I think we're going to be talking about it when Garnet Ridge is on the agenda. So, I mean, understanding what the rules and the laws are would be good, I think.
Yeah, because that was actually, when I was looking at the Garnet Ridge plans earlier this evening, my wife asked me, so well, where are they gonna park? You know, are these, you know, obviously there are no alleys, so these would all be front loading, if they have garages, would all be front loading. And they're, you know, duplexes and triplexes. So that was that was her first question right off the bat, where do all these folks park? You know, and we think we rehashed the street widths because of the parking issue.
I'm happy to pose some generic questions.
Okay, you have, go ahead. As long as it's not pertaining to
I'll
anyone.
make them generic. Okay, so first question I have, several meetings ago, we talked about what the standard size for a parking spot was in Taneytown. I think Jim had mentioned that it was 20 foot, but I didn't know if that was really, is that documented in our notes?
Standard space is 9 by 20. We do allow 18 where there's, where a vehicle can like overhang a non-paved surface, like, you know, they can roll up to a curb if they're not going to be blocking a sidewalk or
We did
anything.
that out at
Yeah,
Evapco,
yes,
right?
yes. So that's acceptable, you know, because that lets the vehicle hang out into, you know, a grass area or something where, but if that was adjacent to a public sidewalk, we wouldn't allow that. So, but 9 by 20 is the rule of thumb.
So, 9. I had 8 in my head for some reason.
No, 9
by
is
20,
standard.
okay.
Yeah.
So in some developments, I know that they, in front of your garage, they don't want you to park a car there, so they make the parking spots kind of small, so you can't park there unless you're like overhanging. So that, and I think in those types of developments, they want you to park in your garage, okay? But I guess I'm struggling with if you're kind of like in between where you have to park in the garage or it's not an ordinance or not a requirement in there and you park and you happen to be overhanging the sidewalk, is that actually a violation or not? So,
It is. You can't obstruct the portion of the driveway apron that functions as the sidewalk.
I can walk and point to a couple of houses where there's
Oh, yeah.
multiple cars that are parked in there. So not just one car, like 2 car widths, and they're extending beyond. So in that case, you can park a car, they got room to park 2 cars in the garage, they got room to park 2 cars in the driveway, so they can meet the requirements and not violate everything. But we don't, in my opinion, we don't want to provide a parking spot outside the garage that we count as a parking spot that is not at least 20 foot long. And so I just,
Yeah, and I know we're kind of beating around the bush with Garnet Ridge here, but I mean, they are on the agenda as an active subdivision, so I think it's fine to, you know, they're not up for a decision or anything tonight, but, you know, and I honestly I didn't pull the plan back out. Maybe you can refresh my memory. Are these units all going to have 2-car garages? Do I remember that?
I don't recall seeing the elevation views of the building, so I don't.
Right. So retirement dwellings in Community Village are only required to have 2 parking spaces.
just 2, okay.
Right. So if we're thinking the usual 3 per dwelling, which is kind of the rule of thumb across the city, Garnet Ridge, because they're retirement dwellings, only have to have 2.
Right.
So if the garages are 2-car garages, they meet the parking requirement without having to park in the driveway.
Right.
I understand the, you know, the idea of the short driveway, and I could say encouraging somebody to block the sidewalk, but that is a violation, but it happens all over town. I'm sure Daryl deals with it just like I used to.
I guess you could say it's encouraging people to park in their garage too.
Well, that was
I mean,
the whole point,
that's
was
what
to
the code is
encourage
trying to
that.
achieve. But again, I guess it's all up to the individual. If they think nothing of blocking the sidewalk, they're going to block the sidewalk.
Right.
But in HOA
Like if they think-
controlled, in HOA controlled areas where the streets are not the city's streets, or do we still have means to cite people who block sidewalks.
Yeah, the streets, sidewalks, and public places still applies.
All right.
So a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, because the driveway is the same color as the sidewalk, and they have that apron down there, well, they can get around there, Daryl. Well, it's sort of like not how it is. So, and typically with my experiences, once you tell people they can't, you just educate them that they can't do that, they stop.
There's one thing I think you have to remember, the size of the garage counts also. Because you got a set of steps in there that come out about 3 foot to be able to get into the house. So therefore, you can't count that as a parking spot because it's not long enough for a parking spot. Because, you know, if you got a 15-foot garage, you can't get in there. And also, if you get into the ADA on the sidewalk where the apron is, you have a flat spot. Because wheelchairs, crutches, walkers are not supposed to use the incline spot. It's very dangerous. So you have to have a flat spot. So you can't go out over the flat spot and expect somebody to go on the incline.
I think that's kind of what Daryl was alluding to about it all being concrete and them thinking, oh, they can go around it. But, right, that part that's lined up with the sidewalk has the same cross slope limitation as the
I mean,
sidewalk.
if we allow this, we're asking for a very large lawsuit, I believe, the citizens and also us.
Yeah, so I think that's why we kind of wanted to talk about it. So I didn't go back and look at the Garnet Ridge because it wasn't on the agenda, so I didn't go back and look at it again. But what I remember is that the parking spot in front of the house was counted as one of the parking spots that we needed. So maybe it was 2-car garage and we need, but, so if the requirement's only 3, I mean, if the requirement's only 2, maybe it was okay, but, so since we're speaking hypothetically, if we counted the parking spot in front of the garage as one of the parking spots and it was 15 foot long, would that cause problems for the city of Taneytown?
Yes.
That's the real question.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a valid parking spot.
Yeah. So it would have to be 20 foot.
But, I mean, like, we're dancing around the legal subject, so that's not, if they meet the code, they meet the code, but maybe the code's wrong, right? And-
Yes.
Okay?
And I think that's part of
Because-
Dan's original question back to council.
That's the best part about being the government is you can change the rules, right? So you make and as long as the process isn't too far. And so I don't know anything, it's good, it is hypothetical for me because I don't have the plans, so I don't know what we're talking about. But, you know, in my jurisdictions where you want to call that a driveway, okay, but it's never a driveway. It's always a parking spot. And if it's not for your cars, it's for your guests' cars. And so when you allow somebody to build it to a standard that's not going to work and you know right out of the box it's not going to work, the only people it causes a headache for is the city later because we got to get calls out there. And then the answer that you're going to get when you knock on the door is, you let them build it this way and you knew that this wasn't going to fit, it's your fault, you know, because that's how this works. And so if we go through when we not make it hypothetical and we find that that's not doable, then that's kind of something you're going to want to focus on and say, this isn't going to work for us. And that's separate from the parking calculations. Because I don't know with 2-car garages, whether they'll fit or anything like that, but like you wouldn't let somebody design a swing set that's going to come out into the street. You would say, hey, that's got to be moved in, whether or not the code says it or not. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you're concerned about this, and I told you before at our training, developers will kind of try to do what you want to do as long as you tell them up front. You know, once you give them approval and then you go out and say, well, you got to change this, you know, that's a non-starter. So, you know, my thought is that the practical thing of what you're saying, a lot of people put junk in their driveway or in their garage, they're going to park in the driveway, and the driveway's not going to be big enough. And you got to accept the fact that that's really what people do. I mean, that's the thing. So when we get to the non-hypothetical thing, we probably want to look at that. Because I know in some communities, they take the overhang of the parking very seriously. You know, but they have a big department of people that come out and do that, and then people stop doing it. Well, isn't it easier to fix it up front than go out and police 60 houses?
Yeah, I think it would be, but to Jim's point, I mean, you're still gonna have those guys.
If they could do it and they don't, those are the bad guys. If they can't do it, who didn't think ahead, right? How many parking lots have you gone into and said, who designed this? I can't even get out of here, you know, type of thing.
Yeah, but to your point about, not changing the rules midstream, these plans are pretty well along here for Garnet Ridge. So, probably really need to look at that, and if the driveways are not 20 feet long, then are we gonna make them go back and revise the plan?
But we have been talking about that ever since the drawings got.
You are correct, but I don't know what ever made it into the plans. I didn't scale them off when I got the plans this
They are
afternoon.
15 foot.
They are 15? All right, well, if we think that that's not suitable, then we need to say something and make that change now and be definitive about it. Otherwise, we should let it go and stop talking about it.
So what do we need to do to make that a standard?
Meaning that,
Do we make a recommendation for the administrative end
is
here?
that the zoning law or is it in subdivision?
It's in Community Village, I guess is and it's not a specific setback, it's just the language that talks about bringing the garages closer to the street to encourage parking in the garage.
Let's look at it. Anything can be done, right? So we figure if that's the idea, we say, hey, figure out how to do it, but let's look at it.
Where there's a way, there's a will.
You got it.
And they're just concept plans, so they're presenting a preliminary plan next, right?
Right.
Right, so.
This is the time to, whether they've done a lot of work or not, this is the time to change it because they do all their engineering. And so not just 5 feet, we're talking cars, but 5 feet times the width times the number of things is that many more impervious surface, which means stormwater calcs and everything changes. So before they spend all the money to
Rear yard
do that,
sizes, because you're
you
moving the
gotta-
house back, it's a lot of
You
stuff
gotta deal with
changes.
that, right?
And if memory serves me correctly, didn't we have a kind of agreement that we said we'd accept 28-foot streets?
That was 27.
I thought it was 28 feet.
28 is what's recorded.
It's been memorialized on your planning
Yes.
commission.
That's 28.
26 is what they have now
What-
on the new
what's
drawing.
6 plus gutter pan,
Okay,
but it is 28.
part of your last approval was the verbiage of what's on your planning commission report. I have it underlined for you. Not underlined, but right after versus Garnet Ridge.
Oh, I see it.
Concept site plan was approved 11/27/23 with conditions of a minimum 28-foot roadway throughout the development and a connected path to Garnet Ridge to the commercial site at Route 140.
But that doesn't include the, what do they call it, the gutter?
Gutter
pan?
pan, right.
It does.
Include the gutter
It
pan.
does,
That's
yeah.
curb face to curb
They,
face.
they were proposing 28.6, as you were, 26.8. But
The 28 includes, it does include the gutter pan?
Thought-
Yes.
The way it is drawn includes the gutter pan, yes.
They included it that way, but I don't think that's the way we intended. I thought it was
No,
roadway.
we didn't,
I don't drive on the curb.
Right.
because I remember when we were discussing that, because he was, the gentleman that was here, I don't know who it was.
It was Marty Hackett, I believe.
Marty was, oh, well, the people can put their tire up on that gutter pan.
Well, Jim, that's just the cement.
The rolled curb, it's not a straight curb.
Yeah, it's that road curb.
Yeah.
But I thought we agreed it was going to be 28 feet plus that.
So you have asphalt.
There's a,
I have to go back and look.
on the gutter,
Yes.
there's a foot that's of concrete before the curb starts to slope up. So that's what I guess we've been referring to as the gutter pan. That's more or less, it's only slightly more tapered than the crown of the road. So that foot of concrete can be driven on and people can certainly park with two wheels on that flat spot. We're not proposing that people park with the tires going up the mountable curb.
But is that what we agreed on?
Well,
Go back and look at the
Okay,
video.
all right.
I
It
have to go
just,
back and listen to
I
the
think it's
tape.
probably a miscommunication because we probably said roadway. The road needs to be this wide, but we didn't say anything about the gutter. So to some people, that includes the road because you park with your tire there.
Take all you can take.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah, I
that's,
mean, from an engineering and construction standpoint, it's face of curb to face of curb. And if you've got just a rolled curb, then that face of curb is where the curb starts up. Or if you have a regular straight curb, it's where it goes vertical.
is that at the radius it cuts up?
Yes, where it starts to turn up is the point of, that's what's face of curb, what we call face of curb.
Yeah.
So that's the way the width is drawn and that's a standard.
But from that curve, you've got a 1 foot
You've got one
flat
break, from that face of curb, there's a 1 foot
foot
4 inch
before the
flat.
paving starts for
And
the road.
then the asphalt.
So I guess the thing is that this thing is, what are we talking about, point to point?
We got to get a clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we
yeah, the
need,
28 feet is face of curb to face of curb.
Yeah, when you always said you wanted 28 feet of roadway, that's, to me, that's 28 feet before you get to the roll-up.
Pavement.
Yeah.
well, now you're saying something different, for the roll up or for the 1 foot
Yeah.
of the pan?
I think we all agree.
Also,
We need a
I
clarification.
call the road is the blacktop.
Yeah, right.
if it's, okay, so to check yourselves, you can go back to the November 23rd, November 2023 meeting, Planning Commission, that's when you're.
November 23rd?
Okay.
Yeah, 11, yeah. I may take a peek myself.
All right. All right, let's move off that subject. Was there any other particular items or anything we wanted to bring up? Anyone from the floor has anything they want to mention or bring up? If not, it looks like our next meeting is June the 24th. Does that look good for everyone? Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, let me go.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Made by Bradley to adjourn, second by Bill.
Brad, Bill.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right?
Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you.